A warm good morning to everyone. This is Sushma A.V., Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Soundarya Institute of Management and Science, Bangalore. Well, today I am here to discuss a topic that is DNA replication. Well, this concept comes under the Bangalore University prescribed chemistry syllabus, paper 8, biochemistry under unit molecular biology. Well, after this discussion, we people will be able to answer some of the questions like what is DNA replication, why DNA has to replicate, why DNA replication is considered to be a semi-conservative process, how exactly DNA replication takes place, I mean the mechanism involved in the DNA replication, and how the DNA replication varies with respect to the prokaryotic cell as well as the eukaryotic cell. So to go with, let us define DNA replication. If I simply split this entire term into two fragments, that is DNA and replication, so first we should know what is DNA. Well, since our school days we have been studying that DNA is the genetic material which is responsible for the transfer of genes from one generation to other generation. Okay, then coming to the replication, the term replication, it's nothing but copying something or replicating something. So DNA replication, it's nothing but the replication of DNA or providing the copies of DNA. Biologically, DNA replication can be defined as a process by which the cell copies its DNA to produce two identical copies. So how will you define DNA replication? Biologically, it's a process by which the cell copies its DNA to produce two identical copies. Okay. Out of these two copies, one of the DNA copy can, well, biologically, DNA replication can be defined as a process by which the cell copies its DNA to produce two identical copies. And out of these two identical copies, in the sense, the two newly formed daughter DNA molecules, one molecule can be passed on to the offsprings, while the other newly formed DNA molecule can remain in the original DNA cell or the original cell. Well, whenever we talk about the DNA replication, we tell the DNA replication, it is a semi-conservative method, or the DNA replication, it follows the semi-conservative method. Well, the question is, what is semi-conservative? As I said before, whenever the parent DNA molecule undergoes replication, it produces two identical copies or two daughter DNA molecules. And if you just consider one of the newly formed daughter DNA molecule, it contains one of the DNA strand that is completely taken from the parent DNA, while the other DNA strand is newly synthesized. So let's take a look at this diagram in order to understand this concept in a better way. This diagram, it basically summarizes the net result of the replication process. Suppose this is my parent DNA molecule. Well, the upper strand runs in the 3-5 direction, while the lower strand or the bottom strand runs in the 5-3 direction. Though both the strands are parallel to each other, since they run in the opposite direction, the DNA molecule is considered to be anti-parallel in nature, and these two strands are held by the hydrogen bonds that are formed between the bases. As the replication process continues, we will be producing two identical copies. Here, the strands that are drawn in the white, they indicate the strands that are taken from the parent DNA, while the blue strand or the strands drawn in blue, they indicate the newly synthesized strand. So, the strands that are in white, since they are taken from the parent DNA, they are referred as parent strand and they can be used as a template for the further synthesis. While the blue strands, since they are newly synthesized, they are referred as the daughter strands. Therefore, the DNA replication is considered a semi-conservative one because the newly formed DNA molecules, they contain one of the strand that is taken from the parent while the other strand is newly synthesized. Well, if you just consider the second question, why DNA has to replicate, why the DNA has to copy itself. Yes, we know that we are being the multicellular organisms, every day our cells multiply. Whenever an existing cell multiplies, it in turn produces many new cells, and those new cells, in order to work properly or execute properly, they need to have certain set of instructions. And the DNA molecule, it acts as a instruction manual for the newly formed cells to work properly or build properly. Therefore, DNA has to replicate before the cells undergo division. Well, if you just look into the diagram, the DNA replication looks very simple, where you have a parent DNA molecule and it undergoes replication to produce new daughter DNA molecules, but the process is not that easy. It is a bit complicated and it has got some of the steps like uncoiling of DNA, then we have the synthesis of RNA primer and the synthesis of DNA at the replication fork, then the removal of RNA primer, then the last step is the ligation. So, we shall discuss one by one. Before the cell starts replicating, a special type of protein or a special type of enzyme referred as DNA helicase must locate the origin of replication. So, if you just consider, this is the parent DNA molecule and here you have a special type of protein referred as helicase. Helicase, before the DNA molecule can unwind or it separates into two separate DNA strands, the helicase has to bind to the parent DNA molecule, and this enzyme helicase, it binds at a point referred as origin of replication before the unwinding process starts. Once the helicase binds to the parent DNA molecule, it starts unwinding. Unwinding in the sense uncoiling or the separation of the DNA strands into single strands. So, once the helicase binds to the parent DNA, it starts unwinding the antiparallel strands of the DNA molecule by breaking the hydrogen bonds that are held between the bases. So, as I said, this is your enzyme helicase. So, it locates a point referred as origin of replication. So, this is the point that is origin of replication. Then it starts unwinding, and this unwinding process, it happens by breaking the hydrogen bonds that are held between the strands, and therefore resulting in the formation of individual strands. As this DNA helicase, it moves along the parent DNA molecule, the unwinding process continues, and a point at which the unwinding process begins is referred as the replication fork. So, don't get confused with the origin of replication and the replication fork. The origin of replication is the point at which the helicase binds to the DNA molecule that need to be unzipped, and the replication fork is that point where exactly the unwinding process continues. So if you just observe this diagram, so this is the origin of replication where your DNA helicase binds and starts unwinding, and this is the replication fork area where the unwinding process becomes very continuous. As this unwinding process goes on continuously, what happens, DNA, it undergoes a kind of strain. As the unwinding process continues, this unwinding process causes the DNA molecule to undergo certain kind of strain, and that strain is nothing but the supercoiling. This supercoiling is a positive supercoiling which in turn induces a kind of stress or strain in the DNA molecule, and this strain, it in turn may restrict the unwinding process. Therefore, enzyme referred as DNA gyrase, it helps in removing this strain. This gyrase, it induces negative supercoil which in turn removes the strain from the parent DNA molecule, thereby facilitating the unwinding process easily. So, the helicase binds and the unwinding process starts, and the area of unwinding is nothing but your replication fork, and which in turn induces a strain, and that strain is removed by gyrase. But if you just look into these separated strands, naturally they will be winded up, but providing some force, we have separated these strands, and they may in future reform or they may undergo reassociation. So in order to make sure that these strands, they don't reassociate or come together, proteins referred as SSB proteins, abbreviated as single stranded binding proteins, they get struck to the single stranded DNA, making sure that they are avoiding the reassociation of the separated DNA strands. Well, this is how exactly we are going to open the winded parent DNA in order to produce two single DNA strands. Next, going to the synthesis of RNA primer and DNA at replication fork. An enzyme referred as DNA polymerase III, it is held responsible for the synthesis of DNA. But we should remember this, that the DNA polymerase III, it itself is not efficient enough to bring about the synthesis of DNA. Therefore, it requires some other factor which can guide the DNA polymerase to bring about the synthesis further. So, we have RNA primer. RNA primer, it's nothing but a specific nucleotide sequence which in turn acts as a guide for the DNA polymerase III to bring about the synthesis of DNA. So what is RNA primer? They act as a guide which in turn signals the DNA polymerase III for the synthesis of daughter DNA strands. And this RNA primer, as I said, it's a specific nucleotide sequence. They are produced by RNA polymerase referred as primase. So primase is RNA polymerase which is responsible for the synthesis of RNA primer, acting as a guide for the synthesis of the new daughter DNA strands. So, and considering the DNA polymerase III, a DNA polymerase III can only read the parent strand in the 3-5 direction. See here, this is the 3,5 direction. Your DNA polymerase 3 can only read the parent strand in the 3,5 direction and can synthesize the new strand only in the 5,3 direction. Please recall that the DNA strands are antiparallel to each other. In the sense, both the strands should be opposite to each other. So, what happens now? Since DNA polymerase 3 can read only in the 3,5 direction, it starts copying the lower DNA parent strand which has got the 3,5 direction, therefore synthesizing a new daughter DNA reading in the 5,3 direction. I shall repeat again, since DNA polymerase 3 can read only in the 3,5 direction, it starts reading the bottom parent DNA strand in the 3,5 direction, and this reading is continuous. This in turn results in the formation of a continuous daughter strand referred as leading strand. Why we call this strand as a leading strand? Since the synthesis of this daughter strand takes place continuously without any break. Well, we are done with one of the daughter strand. However, we have to synthesize one more daughter DNA strand. But as we know that DNA polymerase 3 can only read in the 3,5 direction, now I have to read the upper DNA strand which runs in this direction opposite to the replication progress. So, this direction is the replication progress, and this direction can be considered as the forward direction, in which direction the daughter DNA strand was formed. Now, the other daughter DNA strand has to be formed with respect to the above parent DNA strand, and this formation takes place in the direction, in this direction opposing the direction of the replication progress. But here the synthesis of the new daughter DNA won't be continuous, it goes in a discontinuous way, in the sense it keeps on adding the fragments in order to synthesize the new daughter DNA strand, and those fragments are referred as Okazaki fragments. Okazaki fragments which are about 1,000 to 2,000 nucleotides long, and it is named after the Reiji Okazaki. I shall repeat again, the synthesis of the other daughter DNA, it takes place in a discontinuous manner, and by the assimilation of fragments referred as Okazaki fragments. These Okazaki fragments are about 1,000 to 2,000 nucleotides long, and they are named after the Reiji Okazaki. So, here this is the direction of the synthesis of one of the daughter DNA strand. This strand is referred as leading strand since it is formed continuously. Well, this is the direction of the formation of the second daughter DNA strand, which goes in the direction that is opposite to the replication progress. Since the second daughter strand is formed in pieces, this strand thus formed is referred as lagging strand. Since the synthesis of this strand is discontinuous, it is referred as the lagging strand. If you consider the progress of the synthesis of both the daughter DNA strands, the synthesis of leading strand is bit faster when compared to the lagging strand, since the leading strand forms continuously while the lagging strand is getting formed in a discontinuous way by the assimilation of fragments referred as Okazaki fragments. And please do remember that the synthesis, it takes place in the presence of DNA polymerase 3, and taking the signal of RNA primer. RNA primer is must required in order to signal or help the DNA polymerase III to synthesize the daughter DNA strands. Once the leading as well as the lagging strands have been formed, we need to remove the RNA primer since the both the strands have been formed. So this RNA primer is being removed by an enzyme referred as DNA polymerase 1. DNA polymerase 1 is responsible for the removal of RNA primer from this molecule. The RNA primer would have occupied some position or some space here. So after the removal of the RNA primer, that place or that position becomes vacant. So those vacant positions will be occupied by the newly synthesized DNA fragments. Coming to the ligation, the last step. Ligation means connecting or ligating the two fragments together. As here you can see, the leading strand is formed continuously, so I need not require any kind of ligating molecule here, but the lagging strand, they are formed in fragments, so those fragments need to be connected together. So this process is carried out by an enzyme referred as DNA ligase, which helps in connecting the Okazaki fragments by forming phosphodiester bond. So phosphodiester bond is formed between the phosphate group of one of the parent strand as well as the deoxyribose group of the other parent strand, resulting in the connection of the Okazaki fragments. This is how the copies of parent DNA molecules are produced. So we are left with the last question, that is how DNA replication varies with respect to eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms. Considering the eukaryotic organisms, actually they have many locations of origin of replication. Therefore, the DNA replication, it can take place at multi places. In case of eukaryotic organisms, the origin of replications are many. Therefore, the DNA replication can take place in multi places. Considering the prokaryotic organisms, since they have only one origin of replication, the DNA replication can take place only once. Hope I have made this concept clear. Thank you.